do. So it's important for us, I feel very much during this year, the more we can own what bothers us in the outside world, the less internal war there is internally. And when there's no internal war, then we are not going to have any external war show up, because it no longer needs to show up. The outside no longer needs to show up for us to heal, because we've already done it. So anywhere that you're frightened, anywhere that you are nervous, stressed, worried, carrying, whatever it is, go fall in love with that part of you. So then the outside world, when it shows it to you, has no power over you anymore. And then you just stand fully in your sovereignty and your power. And that, to me, is real freedom, real freedom. And that is not dependent on what the government say or do. That is not dependent on anybody else's judgment, because you've already got it.
Hi, everyone. It's Candace Krog Goldman with another episode of Quantum Realms 2021. And today I'm going to welcome somebody who's a brand new friend who I've never even spoke to in real time like this before. But it's like I've known her forever. Please welcome everybody, Marina J. Hi, Marina.
Hi. Hello, everybody. Hello.
I just love you so much. I love everything about you. I love your vibe. I love the way you move through the world. I love the way you occasionally drop an F-bomb on your podcast. I love everything about you. And I'm so excited to get to know you and my audience as well. And somehow, and you and I both know this already, somehow we've been in this circle for a while, and I kind of saw your name, but I didn't listen here. I didn't know and still don't know too much about you. So I wonder if you couldn't tell our audience a little bit about you, what you do in this world, what you're doing now, and how you are of service to others, because I know you're that.
Sure. And this is probably the hardest part of this whole conversation, because I'm not massively into talking about myself. So, well, my name is Marina J. I'm English. I lived in Australia for 24 years, got back to the UK in 2019. I am looking at the ocean right now. It's a 10-minute walk. It is utterly beautiful, utterly beautiful. I am a bit of a mermaid. Essentially, I help people heal deeply so that they absolutely become the people they were born to be. I do that through shadow work, theta healing, metaphysics. I've taught yoga and meditation for 24 years. I've been a life coach for 17 years. Currently calling myself the Shadow Alchemist, because I am an alchemist at heart. Don't know if I'm going to stick with that. Like, literally, it's like, what do you call, when you're so multifaceted, it doesn't really matter anyway. I used to be a single mum, met the love of my life, and he's now the father that my daughter never had. She is going to be 21 this year. Cannot believe it. She's Australian, living with us at the moment. And yeah, this is a really interesting time for all of us to really, I just keep seeing fire. I keep seeing individual people literally as flames. Like, we are literally getting rid of the old, and we are literally becoming who we were always meant to be, who we always knew we were, right when we were at school and feeling like the weird little ones, Mm-hmm. So this year for me is actually going to be really, it feels exciting. Anyway, I know we're going to talk, but that's about as much as I'm going to talk about myself. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I already love the fact that you're having trouble with the labels, because I have trouble with the labels too. What do you do? What do you call yourself? Even that little place on forms where you have to say what kind of business.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know I don't even know what to call that. What do you want to, call that in the 3D realm? We're doing something a little differently. And the labels are very constricting and they're very limiting, but we have to use them to communicate a little bit. So I understand that about you, and I understand just a lot about you energetically, even without barely knowing you a little bit. I'm glad you told me about being born in Australia, because I'm like, I'm hearing an Australian accent in there. even though I know you're in the UK. And so, well,
Yeah.
I've listened to a few of your things, not too many. And I know many people in my audience know you much better even than I do. But this is your first appearance on a quantumhealers.com video. So, what are we talking about this year, especially in quantum realms? We're talking about this year, and we're actually recording this just right before the spring equinox, just right before it.
Yes.
And coming up, and just even saying that gives chills down my back because something's happening, something's up. We've all known this. And I think what I'd really love for you to talk about almost more than anything is you can see, and you've talked about yourself, this sort of split that so many of us are seeing, so many of us are feeling. We're feeling it in our families, we're feeling it in our workplace, and we're even feeling it with colleagues in this business, which, I knew those other things were coming along. And when it finally started happening in this community, that has been playing out in the most interesting way, and trying to remain neutral and very high vibe in this split in our community is fascinating to me. And I think you are navigating that in a really lovely way. I wonder if you would talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So if you're watching this now, you will know exactly what we're talking about. So I feel very strongly that I recognized the first split back in 2007. I'll never forget. I used to go into my daughter's school. She was in primary then. She was 7 years old. And I literally would have all these women coming towards me, and I'd be like 5 women deep. And everybody just wanted to talk to me, right? And I would help them with all their problems. And one of the mums came up to me and she's like, when am I ever going to get to know you? You are always surrounded by people. And I was like, oh, okay. I didn't really even think about it. One morning I walked in 2007 and nobody came up to me. And the woman that used to need help from me was getting help from a really good friend of mine who was sort of more, if we say, more in the 3D realm. She was kind of more left brain than right brain. And I was like, wow, it was like they literally couldn't see me anymore. And a few months later, because I thought it was just me, a few months later, my girlfriend said the same thing. She had noticed it as well for herself, right, at the school. This wasn't online anywhere. You couldn't Google it anywhere. I just really felt it. I felt it again really strongly in 2012. And I felt it again in 2016 and again 2019. 19 was, for a lot of us, the year of betrayal, where a lot of us felt or were betrayed by people. And really, what is betrayal? It's really that person showing you where they're at, or showing you perhaps who they've always been to you. It got revealed. And now we find ourselves in 2021. I mean, really, we're at the end of the year. 2020 began in March the 20th, and the new year begins March the 21st. So by the time we're all going to be watching this, we're already in the new year. So the split is something I'm really just allowing it to happen. I am no longer in contact with my birth family. So I came back to this country. I am actually English, but I came back to this country to partly be with my family. And through the events of 2019, I have had to cut a couple of members out. And then the other members, who are so beautiful, have yet to wake up to what narcissistic abuse is. And they're making their choices. So they're supporting the false light, right? That's fine. I love them. I can love them and have boundaries. So we're no longer in contact. And look, we might be in contact at some point, we may not. So for me, I've definitely noticed that happening in my own life very much last year. Maybe some of you felt the same, where we were all trying to wake everybody up, which I'm not doing anymore, right? We're trying to wake everybody up, and I lost a lot of friends, childhood friends. I moved to Brighton, which is the south of England. I moved here in the middle of lockdown. I've got a best friend from uni who lives 20 minutes away. They live a 10-minute, they work a 10-minute drive away from me, and they're no longer in contact. They stopped because of what I was saying when I was saying, look at this doctor. This doctor is actually saying you can heal naturally, and so I've navigated it in my own life. The way I look at it is very much like, you're going to do you and your vibration and what's right for you. I'm not going to change your mind. I'm not going to find you wrong. If I'm in reaction to you, I'm going to lower my vibration, right? So the way I look at it is I can react to you all day long, but actually there's two things going on here. One is, instead of reacting to you, can I bring my wisdom down from my higher self through to the outside world, which means I'm not reacting, I'm responding. So that gives me that beautiful independent vibration. And the other part of it is the shadow work that I've done for so long and I've loved so much, which is that the way I see it is everybody in the outside world is just a part of me. And if I've got an issue with somebody that is maybe going in what I would term the dark way, right? If my version is, I'm going to go the natural way and maybe you're going to go the dark way, that's me. Well, what part of that is me? When I can fall in love and accept what you're showing me, so when I can fall in love with the same part in me that you're showing me, you're going to have no effect over me anymore. So I'm in a really interesting place where I feel really neutral, like really neutral, so neutral that I've actually found it hard to put content out in the last 2 or 3 weeks, because I think a lot of us who are engaged in real healing have come to a point where we've actually released our karma. We've actually done the healing that we needed to do. So we're no longer needing or no longer able to use conflict or what's going on in the outside world, either because we're in it or what's happening in the outside world as kind of content. So we're having to really find our content from the inside. So for a lot of us, I feel like we're going to go direct after the new year, which is the 21st. And I feel like a lot of us are a little bit like the horses at the beginning of a race, when you're kind of like this. I honestly feel like the 21st, we're going to be off. And I feel like this is our last rest. So I guess, the long-winded way of explaining to you how I'm navigating it is, I suppose I've already done it in my personal life. So for me then to be doing it with friends of friends I know who are upset that some of their colleagues are choosing to take a certain medical thing in their body, and they're going, well, they're not really walking their walk, they're not really talking their talk. For me, I don't need to participate in any of that. I can love you, but maybe what's going to happen is we're just going to naturally vibrate each other away, and so be it. Yeah. How are you dealing with it? I'm curious.
Very much like you, because, and that's why, I align so much with your energy. It's the higher self reaction. It's the, when I do myself feel triggered, that's a 3D thing. That's, and then I can easily, most of the time, tap into the higher self, the 5D view of it. I still find some things. Here's the thing that I ponder a lot. Maybe you could give me your idea about this. And by the way, I circled this as you were saying it, the narcissism and everything. I heard you once say, you talked about global narcissism,
Yeah.
and that is such a wonderful description about what's going on here. But we also know that we don't kind of enable the narcissists, right? We try, when we've kind of figured it out, we try not to enable them. And so my biggest curiosity is still navigating the very 3D things that we must navigate to live a physical existence here. Being in 5D, having a 5D approach, but navigating that 3D, it's I kind of feel like it's threading a very fine needle. I'm doing very well with it most of the time. Others maybe not so much. We're still kind of learning, how to go about this. But the thing that interests me most that surrounds this whole conversation a little bit, and I'd love to have your thought on this, is the idea of kind of the bypass, the person who, or even, a teacher who says the right things, who understands the concepts, but then automatically kind of bypasses sometimes the very real situations that we're in. You're a mother, even though your daughter is now grown. I know right where you are, there's this huge thing about, are we going to subject our children to this, medical experiment? And it's the bypassing of, well, I'm not going to think about that. And if I don't think about that, then it's not going to bother me, or it won't come to us. Well, I don't know. I think there needs to be some real 3D. I live out in the country, and there's packs of coyotes, and there's sometimes rattlesnakes in the rocks, and there's some other things like that. I don't, while I can vibe in a way that I can live, I'm still quite careful where I put my feet. And how I move about the real world. So that a little bit.
Yeah. Can I swear on this, or would you rather I don't?
I just couldn't wait to see if you would.
Okay, well I feel it coming. So like now this isn't my term, I actually heard it from somebody else, but I love it. It's like, I'm light and love and a little bit of fuck you. So I feel like with a lot of healers, they've bypassed the emotional health part of them. So we've got the 4 bodies. This is my belief system. We've got the physical body, the emotional body, we've got the spiritual body, right? I've missed one out. What have I missed out? Spiritual, mental. Okay, mental body. Okay, great, mental body. And when we are jumping straight to light and love, so there's a lot of people out there that are talking about, DNA activations and the crystal light, activating the crystal light grid and all of that. And then at the same time, you see them commenting on people's posts, and they're saying that they're really freaking out and they're needing just to know what's going to happen, right? And they're relying on these brilliant sages to tell them, basically, you are going to be all right. They're not embodied. They basically learned these spiritual concepts that they rock when they meditate, or they rock when they're in a healing session, right? Or maybe they rock when they're doing quantum healing, right? Or they rock when they're life coaching. But actually, when they walk into the supermarket, can you rock it then? The answer is, if you are only really rocking it when you're in a good mood, when you're meditating, right? When you're on a beach, you ain't rocking it, because it's conditional. You want to be able to embody it. So the way that I work with myself and my clients is we actually own the shadows. When you own the dark within you, you are not scared of it anymore, and it has no power over you anymore. So for example, let's just say that you have a child and they are deciding that they are going to take, the what, and for you, that's just, it puts you into absolute horror. What I would do is, if it were me, I go, right, what is it that you're doing? Okay, where is it that I'm already doing that to myself? And if I can start clearing and healing me, you, my child, have the best chance of either lifting up with me to the vibration that I'm at, or maybe engage in that 2-world split and you actually drop away. But what isn't going to happen is we're going to keep doing this push-pull dance where you stay in my vibration and I kind of get denser and I'm in your vibration and I'm irritating you. That's not going to happen. So I feel like the light and love, it's a bit like saying I can only be these colors. When we stop ourselves from being whole, we only walk around with like half of us in this world. If I only walk around with my light and love, and the government suddenly goes, hey, if you don't have this thing in your arm, you can't go in this shop, right? And I'm all light and love, and I'm just going to avoid it. And I'm just going to go, you know what? As long as I'm holding the vibration high, that's all I need to do. Well, why would I give my power away like that? Why would I actually only be half of me? There's a whole nother part of me. The reason that you and I are here, the reason that all of us are here, we're made for these times. We're literally made for these times. We are the antidote, but we're not the antidote if we only allow ourselves to be light and love, right? The way that you thwart the dark isn't just by being the light, it's understanding how to alchemize the dark. You cannot do that by avoiding it, right? So like you're saying, I mean, hey, Australia, we used to have snakes in the backyard. Totally get it, right? You have to watch where you walk. That doesn't mean your head's in the clouds going, I'm going to be beautiful and lovely because I've just fucking meditated. You've got to look, and you've got to have it within you to be embodied enough to know what to do if that rattlesnake comes at you. So it's being in your body, it's being embodied, otherwise it's bullshit. I saw, it was a post by somebody a long time ago, because a lot's happened. Sure. And she went into a crystal shop. It's here in Glastonbury. Glastonbury is a really kind of psychic vortex, really, if you will. And the crystal lady was really frightened of the fact that this beautiful woman was not wearing anything on her face, and she was not, you know, and this woman walks into the shop and she's like, do you believe your crystals work? And the woman's like, yeah. She goes, well, they will protect you then. Do you not believe in energy? And this woman didn't get it. So we are really seeing, sorry to say, I believe within every light community, within every healing community, those that are genuinely the healers, and those that genuinely believe in healing, and those that maybe were not as embodied, but we just couldn't see them before. And that's not a judgment. That's just truth. Yeah. That's just truth, right? Because if you really believe in healing, you know that nothing is more powerful than you, because you are the healer, you are the alchemizer, you are the one that can take in the dark and push back out the light. So you don't need anything in your body, right? You don't need anything in your body because you are it. You are the medicine.
What do you say to those people who take what you've just said and turn it on its ear and say, so then it doesn't matter, I'll just take it anyway, because then it'll be easier to do all of these other things, and I'll alchemize all of that out of me, and I won't respond, and it won't bother me whatsoever. What do you say to that?
Well, I would say to them, if that's what you want, then that's how you're going to learn. You're choosing to learn by experience. You've stopped learning through hearing other people's wisdom, and you're obviously needing to learn through a 3D experience. So enjoy that. And that's not me saying enjoy it in a bitchy way, but it's like you've had all the help you could possibly get. The other part of it for me is every time the dark comes at us and people are like, oh God, how the light will rise, the dark will come, the light will rise, the dark will come. So I've got no doubt that we're going to be able to figure out how to neutralize whatever it is that they're deciding, you know, the experiment they're deciding to inject into people. Having said that, it might be a few years away. So they're going to need the experience of what that actually may do to their body, and they'll choose to ascend, perhaps having more of a physical exploration of, it's almost like when you don't have it, well, then you want it. So I do feel that it's going to put people back, but I also feel like if you're already deciding that's what you want, you're already vibrating at that level. So it's a match. And it's a bit like, you know, you do you and I'm going to do me. So we've got a couple of neighbors who I absolutely adore, and they gleefully told me a couple of weeks ago that one of them had taken it that weekend and was violently ill all day, violently ill, and the other one was taking it that afternoon. And I was like, okay. I said, well, and I didn't say anything. I didn't feel a pull. I didn't want to try and tell them. I just thought, this is your way of learning, and I'm not going to deny you your own growth. Like, we are each responsible now for our ascension. We were carrying people. This is what I wanted to say earlier, actually. The split that I was seeing from 2007, that's just what I was seeing, right? It might have been happening way before that. We used to be carrying people. So, you know, the way that I would coach people was very different 10 years ago. I would be doing a lot for them. I would be sort of channeling for them and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And as time's gone on, particularly since 2012, we're being asked to put them down. Like, put people down. We can't carry them anymore. So same with this. What I would say to that person that is choosing that, I'm not carrying you, my love. If you come at me and ask me a question about it, I will answer you. But I look at a conversation much like a tennis match. So you're telling me something. If you want help, I'll give you help. And then you want more, I'll give you more. But if you just present yourself to me like that, I'm not going to do that. I used to. It hurts me to do that now. So I'm going to be here and adore you, and we'll have fun and we'll play. But no, I'm not your healer anymore unless you genuinely ask me to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I think of something that I've thought of it in my head for a while. I don't think I've ever said this out loud. It's just kind of this thought that I've thought in my head about this whole idea of, well, I'll just transmute it if it's, if there's something yucky in there, in such a flippant way sometimes, And then I always think of things like, well, if I had a couple of glasses of, a water, and one was beautiful spring, clear water and perfectly healthy and clean, and one was some water that had a good measure of cyanide in it. Let's just say it had cyanide in it. And I know that the thought and the idea and the concept that maybe those Tibetan monks who meditate all day long can vibrate at such a level that they can tip up either one of those glasses, and neither one will bother them whatsoever. I absolutely believe that belief system exists. I also know that if somebody was told that the beautiful, perfectly clear glass of water that had nothing in it, if they drank it down and then was told, oops, that had a big measure of cyanide in it, that fear can create real illness. I also believe that as well. I completely believe that. I've seen that. In my practice, that belief system and fear that can create so many things. What I don't quite get is the people who, I don't know, think that they could really transmute that glass of cyanide.
Yeah.
Just because they say they can, because they've heard that idea or believe they've meditated enough over the last 10 years that they could. I'm not really willing to subject my physical form for this particular experiment. And that's what it feels like to me. What do you say to that idea?
Yeah, you need discernment, right? I mean, I did, one of my podcasts was on discernment versus confusion. And it's actually been my most popular podcast. Isn't that interesting? So I was on fire when I was doing that one. Man, I was like, I'd seen so much out there. I feel like, what do I want to say about this? It's a bit like, it's like saying, I'm going to play with the devil. I'm just going to see how it works out. Surely, it'll work. And it's like, well, I personally believe that a lot of this stuff has been man-made. I believe that it is AI. I believe that it's deliberately doing whatever it's doing. So to me, it's like, why would I want this lesson? Like, is there anything for me to learn through this? No, because I've had my version, right, of that injection with narcissistic abuse. I've had that in human form. I've had that in my life where I haven't necessarily put something in my body, but, well, let's look at that actually. We're always ingesting stuff in our body, right? At the same time. So I'm already doing that. Do I really want to be increasing it? No. And part of that can be a bit of ego, like, yeah, I can handle it. I can take it. Inject me. I'll figure it out. I do feel like, very similarly to you, like, yes, your resonance, your vibration, all of that is extremely potent, very, very potent. But at the same time, it's also a waste of time. You could be helping people, because it's a little bit self-absorbed as well to be going, I'm going to do the experiment on myself. Like, we need every single light leader right now to go for it. And that's going to force you to really go inwards. So how much use can you be? I just think if you already know, you already know. And to have real discernment, like real discernment, everything has an energetic frequency. Does that actually, do you really think that frequency is going to lift you higher?
Right. Yeah. I heard you say something that really touched my heart. And again, I'm a new follower of yours. I haven't listened to very many things, bits and pieces here and there, 1 or 2, maybe 4 podcasts. And while I'm driving or doing chores is about the only time I can listen and do anything like that. But you said something that touched my heart. So a couple of things that I've heard, some recent things. First off, talking about the body and the exhaustion in the body. Also, I would love for you to talk about that. But even before you talk about that, I want to say you said something that you said you made yourself cry to experience and allow yourself to acknowledge the grief, that the very real grief of what 2020 was. And I had that myself at the end of 2020 and into the first part of this year. And I remember doing the exact same thing and either being out in the barn with the horses or in the shower when no one else was around. Just and I kind of had to make myself do it. I wasn't bubbling over anyway, because I'm always the strong one. I'm always the one that's taking care of everything else around and you know, getting things done. And I really, really needed that. And my heart just melted when you said it, because I'm not sure all of us have allowed ourselves to grieve that. There's still some grieving that needs to come through us, and especially people, I think, in our community.
Definitely. So, you know, a lot of people kind of want to skip it. You don't really want to deal with it, right? Or you want to say, I'm fine. I'm no longer absorbing stuff from the world, so I don't need to do it. But it's, you know, every time, for example, the UK government dashes people's hopes, which they tend to do on these pivotal dates. So the 21st, which is, I think, is a Sunday, I'm interested to know what they're going to say on Monday. Very interested, because they tend to choose these dates. And I know that there are people out there that that's it. They're not going to come back from it, right? And because they don't have the right financial, emotional support. So for me, what I do is anytime I'm anything but light, I go straight to my dark. And the way that I do that is I let it out. I always say, express, don't suppress, otherwise it's BS. Literally get it out, right? Because that is the first stage of healing, the first stage of alchemy, the first stage of getting back to your light is not to practice positivity. Oh fuck, I used to write a lot of articles about that about 5 years ago, because it used to really annoy me, but I feel I'm okay now. I'm kind of neutralized. I'm all good. But it's literally let it out. So this is what I do. Actually, I'll give you a really good example of what I did. This is a great one. So my husband and daughter went to London just recently, and I could feel that I just couldn't reach my light. And it had been going for about 4 days. I could just feel it. I could just feel it, right? And I put on a piece of music, and I just started moving as it, right? Which is just kind of really, just kind of really slumping. I started moving. And then I really start to get the anger out. I really start to move. And I realized this is the only track I really want to listen to, because it's really working. So I end up listening to this track about 50 times. I just kept replaying it. And I really started dancing. And as I moved through these feelings, I was like hot tears. I was really grieving, getting my anger out. And I felt, as I let my pain out, and my anger out, I felt all this power rushing back in. So I started kind of really walking very proudly around the lounge room, and just really and then I imagined like fire just kind of moving through people on this planet, particularly where I live, like literally rise up. I could feel it really strongly. And then I felt really good. And I was like, you feel good, but are you brilliant? No. Okay, you've got more to do, right? Because I plateaued. So I made myself cry again. And I kept going, I think, I went for about an hour and a half to 2 hours in total. Yeah. It's probably more than 50 times I listened to the song then, must be. And kept going until I was just this light, hot, sweaty mess. But I still understood from that I had a few more days to go of getting it out. So it's kind of like, know yourself. We're not meant to be carrying other people's heaviness, because that's their work. We're not meant to be carrying other people's grief, because also that's their work. Having said that, there are times when you can't help but feel it, because it's just so thick in the air, right? And Gaia herself, right, is also needing support. So this is part of really just letting it out. I just want to say there's another thing I do, which I seem to have done quite a lot. I went, when I was studying theta healing, a teacher helped me. And at one point I felt a huge amount of grief come up, and then she moved me along so quickly that it just didn't have anywhere to go. And I felt like I missed the window for crying, right? And afterwards I said to her, I said, I'm going to have to let this out because I can feel it. And she went, yeah, go for it. I was like, okay, cool. And it was a 15-day training, like 8 hours, 10 hours a day. So, and it was right at the beginning, right? So I knew I had a bit of a trek to go on. And by the afternoon, my throat was getting really sore, and I could hear a couple of people in the back, like coughing their way. So back in 2019, coughing their way. I thought, yeah, you've got to let your grief out. And I was staying in a hotel at the time, but I couldn't make myself cry. And often when we feel like we're holding all together, like you're saying, how do you get yourself to actually access that grief? You can be so good at helping somebody else access their grief, right? But often, because we're so powerful, we're like, you know what? I'll take the hit because I can. I can keep going. I'm still lighter than most people on their best days. You know, I'm still lighter than most people on my worst day, is what I'm meant to say. So it's like, okay, how can I access it? So I started looking on YouTube, and I saw some really bad, like animal stuff, animal cruelty. And I just thought, no, because then you're going to have free-forming memories, and you don't want to have that then to have to deal with.
Yep.
So, the shows like America's Got Talent, with Simon Cowell, and they have these auditions. So I just kind of typed in sad auditions, and then somebody comes on and they're like, I wrote this for my brother, he died. And then I'm like, and I sat there and I made myself cry for 2 hours on the bed in the hotel room. I had about 50 tissues, just literally, it looked like rose petals, but just strewn all over the bed. I had snot coming out. I mean, I'm a really ugly cry, right? It looked bad. Kept going for 2 hours, and I knew it wasn't fully out, but literally the next day I was a lot better. And by day 3, it had totally gone. Whereas for those 2 people that kept coughing, they kept it for the whole 15 days. There's nothing worse when someone's talking for you to keep coughing and sneezing and all that kind of stuff. I completely let it out. So I'm a great advocate. Like, if you're listening to this right now and you are feeling just heavy, just a bit blah, just a bit, it's not necessarily that you're feeling the grief, you're just not feeling great. Let your anger out, let your tears out. I promise you, you will get yourself back. It's the first thing I do with anybody that comes to me who's depressed. I get them to let their feelings out. And a lot of these people will say to me, like, I'll say to them, when was the last time you were angry? And they'll say, oh no, I'm not an angry person. Yeah,
man, that's
trouble. How hard is that? So so I literally, if I can't access it, I will make myself cry through through music or videos or whatever. Films are really good as well.
That's a really great suggestion, and of course, it's pretty classic too, because mostly it's classic when people think about breakups. You only want to hear sad songs when you're in the middle of a breakup. And so that sort of applies here, but it's a really good thing because there's some real grief. And I think the grief is simply because, the split of the worlds, and it's the split of every world, pick any area of society and we're kind of dividing here. And it's really, really interesting. And we can all talk about unification and we could talk about how we'll end up unified
right?
in a realm, and we all believe that and everything, but it's still, it's heart-wrenching watching that other boat sail off, so, and it's also exhausting. And I'm with you about the sleeping and the going to sleep at night and waking up and still kind of tired. And it's like, okay, I know I had the correct number of hours and I am still tired. Yeah. And I know that I'm an empath and I know I can feel what's going on out there. I also know how to disconnect from that and shield from it, but it's so oppressive. It's worldwide. It's not just in your family. It's not just in your community. It's not just in your state. It's not just in your country or locale. It is the entire world. What pockets of the world right now? I'm not sure there are pockets of the world that are escaping this stuff. And it's not much or many. And I'm not sure. I mean, do you have to go back to Noah's flood to pick an event that affected the entire planet? I can't think of one. So this is a kind of energy that is kind of brand new and all encompassing. And there's still people who help other people are trying to figure out how to how to keep going with this. I once heard you say too, a bath, Epsom salt baths. I can't recommend them more highly, and sometimes daily, to just try to,
Yeah,
leach that stuff out of my energetic system.
definitely. And I feel like support's really important. I feel like if you're an amazing healer, and of course, if you're watching this, you will be, right? A lot of us are kind of lone wolves. We've done a lot on our own because as light workers and star seeds, we've been dropped in lots of different pockets around the world, but we've been on our own, right? So we are used to having to do a lot on our own. And that's where people like you make a huge difference. I love you. Like, I watch you, I listen to you, I see you. You're amazing. You make a huge difference. And sometimes it's not even what you say, it's just your energy. And I feel like that is so important for people that are so used to supporting others, but have yet to really receive that support back fully. Like, as in, what you give out, you get back. And particularly because a lot of light workers and star seeds and light leaders, call yourself, whatever you want to identify as, have had to be initiated over the last 20 years in order to lead during this time. Because at some point, we're not going to need leaders, right? We're not going to lead them, right? But right now, this is just where we're at until everybody's empowered. And so the last 20 years, most of us, I would say, have had to clear and heal themselves from narcissistic abuse, right? Which is in itself isolating, which is in itself exhausting, which is in itself, when you've had narcissistic abuse, you may heal it, but are you still carrying that template, for example, that narc template in your business? So maybe you give, but you don't get the testimonials as much back, or you don't get, your social media doesn't kind of blow up, or you don't get the recognition, and you're seeing other people on the world stage and you're like, I'm not really thinking you're caring that much about your people. I genuinely care. How come I'm still, because you're still carrying that narc template. So for a lot of us, we've been on our own, right? We've been on our own, give. So what's very supportive and nurturing now is for like-minded beings to actually value it and make it important in their week. I'm still doing that. I'm still much more of a lone ranger than I am a together person. So a lot of people will come to me, but there's very few people I look at and go, you can handle me. And I'm not saying that any other way, but I don't want people, I'm quite full on as a person, right? So that you can handle me, you're not going to break if I'm, if I've got stuff going on. But you can, and basically what I give out, I'll also get back, because we're on the same level. And meeting people now like you, right, which feels just, I don't know what it feels. It feels kind of like I always thought life would feel like this. I think I was really excited to come and be in a human body, because I thought that everybody was actually going to be like you, Candace. And, this kind of real just joy, and let's enjoy and let's talk and let's be. And I think that huge disappointment so many of us have felt over the years almost can stop us from actually getting that support, actually reaching out and saying, like, literally right now, I know I'm talking a lot, right? But literally right now, I have nothing to say, right? Just hear me out. I feel very neutral, right? I'm literally going, what will I talk about on my podcast next week? I didn't even run a podcast 2 weeks ago because I got nothing. Like, the old me is, the engine is changing out, the new engine's coming in. So, but just to kind of be on the phone with somebody and go, bloody hell, all right. But you're not, when you're together with people that are on your level, if you're a true light worker and a true star seed, you're embodied. I think the word is embodied, right? Because we're all light workers and light leaders on this call, on this talk. But if you're actually embodied, you can't drain each other. So I have this, where I've got a really good friend of mine. She's like, you never drain me. And I'm like, really? Because I used to drain people around me. And she's like, yeah, but they couldn't handle you because they weren't embodied. They hadn't owned their shadows. So if you were upset, they were freaking out because you were their rock. So it's so lovely to be with embodied people. Yeah, I don't know where that was going, but anyway, that was just what I wanted to say. Yeah.
I think that may be one of the most favorite things I've ever heard you say. You can handle me. I mean, I just love that so much. I'm thinking of some all kinds of other things. Like I did listen to a podcast where you were talking about when you would go to the school for a while and a lot of people were around you for a time. And then suddenly it sort of shifted and then no one was around you. And that's because they couldn't handle you anymore, right? I think, that energy of you that I'm not a very good small talk person. I mean, I try to be kind and I'm around people like my dad. I'm caregiving my 90-year-old dad, and we can't talk about a lot of deep things anymore, nor for very long. And of course, I can be kind and do that. But as far as small talk, and I have very little patience for that. And I'm never want to be rude to anybody, but I avoid situations where I may have to be in that place. But having these juicy, high vibe energy changes, we do. And don't you think that's one of the reasons we've been told to stay away from each other and to keep our distance? And because not only, I mean, this energy, of course, we know it's quantum and that's giving me goosebumps, but it's also quite physical, which is why somebody can walk into a room and the whole rest of the room knows it, whether they kind of recognize that intellectually or not. And a lot of people will want to just cozy on up to that person who's got kind of the energy that they want or need or is lacking in their own life. And when you separate everybody out like that, it's hard on us as a species. And I really do believe that is the thing that is something I hadn't thought about, and what kind of, why would I have until this last year? But I think human beings as a species, we've got a piece of us feeling right now as a species. And you can talk all you want about Epsom salt baths and meditation and having a high vibration, but you're still part of the human species. And there's a piece of you in here that's just affected by all of this. And if you're not, you may be a sociopath or something, right?
Yes.
Really, right?
No, yes, because I have to say just really quickly, I remember going, I'm not going to name any names, right? But there's some very well-known people in power. And I remember thinking, how do you look so good? How do you continually look so good and seem so high vibe when you're also doing all of these things? And I'm like, yeah, Marina, well, first of all, they might not even be human. That's just my belief, right? So that explains everything. Because to me, when you're genuinely human and you're not a sociopath or a psychopath or a narcissist or whatever, when you're kind of just genuinely balanced and healthy, it's going to show on your face. You're going to feel it. And I miss people. I fucking miss people. I mean, in the UK, we've been under stupid, lockdown for over 6 months. We're still in it. We're still in it. And I'm just dreaming of wearing a gorgeous summer's dress and just kind of walking down the street and meeting my friends for, breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and just having a lot. I can't wait to do that.
I can't wait to do that either. I live out in the country and I live for a reason. The city energy is not my vibe. I love going to the city. I love being around people. I also love leaving it there and going back to my farm and disconnecting from that. But this whole year has shown me how much I miss people and I miss people's faces.
Yeah.
And when I was in the grocery store the other day, and I haven't worn a stinking this thing in a grocery store yet. And I went down the aisle and there was like a stock guy and he it was, and I fist bumped him and these small things of joy of meeting some other people who are standing in their own power are such wonderful things. The face though, I'm starting to think about faces and my dad's 90 and he has very few contemporaries left, quite frankly. Most of his age group and his contemporaries are no longer around. A few, but you can look at a person's face and there's some people's face who's like all down, all this, and their whole life has been this. And then there's these other people who and it's completely different and you can read it in their face. And this thing about let's not let anyone see their face. Our faces are such huge communication devices. I'm going to be 60 in August, and my ears are fine as far as I know, but I didn't realize how much I watch people's lips when they talk. And when I'm having to deal with, I make no bones about it. I'm like, I'm sorry, since I can't see your mouth, I'm having a really hard time understanding what you're saying. You're either going to need to say it louder, slower, or take that thing off. And I'm always, of course, pleased when it's the last thing. But they're okay with it. I haven't gotten anyone upset with me by asking that. But I've also felt very strong in my own sense of self to be able to say that, I'm really not trying to be rude, but I really don't know what you just said to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to have to try again.
No, absolutely. I'm the same. And I almost get a bit like, I get a little bit irritated for them. Like, isn't it bothering you that you can't be heard, that you've put yourself in this sort of thing? We're the same. We're not wearing anything at all. And, and we've had no problems at all, because I think deep down, I think everybody can relate to what freedom is. And there's a human, even if you've been indoctrinated, and again, this is my belief system, but even if you have been indoctrinated, there's a human part of you that actually can correspond with that freedom. So you're not all one way. There's a part of you that actually can relate and go, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, totally. But I would love to pick up on something you said earlier, which I think is a huge one for a lot of healers, in that, yes, like, I'm definitely somebody in the past, before I had good boundaries, before I understood what was going on, I used to have a lot of people coming at me all the time, because instead of generating their own light, they wanted mine, right? Which is a lazy way out, right? It's lazy. And I would give it to them because I almost felt apologetic. I felt bad. And that's not to say that one's higher than the other. It's just that I was a bit more advanced, then more of a beginner, right, in that area. But one thing that I've grappled with a lot in my life, and I only realized about 2 years ago, is that I would get rejected also a lot. And I was like, what is it? Why is it that I can go out with Paul, my husband, and he's such a laugh, right? I love him so much. That is real masculinity, by the way. He's a real man. Like, he is just so strong in his sovereignty, loves everybody, accepts everybody, goes out, is himself, doesn't wear anything. He really inspires. He's much braver than me as well. It really inspires me. Anyway, that's by the by. But we'd go out, and they might, one half of the couple might say to him, let's hang out, but they wouldn't necessarily invite me. And I was always like, but you like me and we had fun, and what is it? I'm very confronting, and I think a lot of healers can maybe relate to this. I'm very confronting for you. If you don't want to do the work, I'm going to be very confronting to you, and it will be nothing that I say. It is a truth. It's literally like a truth frequency that I carry. So I also feel like part of the two worlds split. Well, the first thing is, for a lot of us, we've been rejected so much, and it's to understand that on this planet, we've had the sort of narcissist, the global narcs at the top, and we've had the real leaders at the bottom, right? And these have explained to everybody and indoctrinated, or tried to indoctrinate everybody to have idol worship, which is narcissistic, right? Only think one person is amazing. You won't be as amazing as them. They're amazing, but you not so much. And so we're here, and of course we're like very confronting for the people that are believing in all of that. So what's happening now is, as you know, it's going to be like that. In this process, there has to be a two-world split, because literally two things are happening here. One is they're too heavy for us to carry anymore. So that is, I believe, from up on high, they've gone, love you all. If the light continues to carry the denser ones, you're just going to pull the light ones down. I believe that's why from 2007, there started to be a split, right? Now you're each responsible for your own ascension. And I'm not going to get in the way of that, right? And the other part of it is, we are literally now going, well, I'm too confronting for you. So again, there's a two-world split. It's too confronting. If you've decided on something, but you're not embodied, it is too confronting to have somebody like you, Candace, right? Or you who's listening out there, you in their world. It's too much, because they're not willing to do the work. So what I do energetically is I'm like, that's cool. That's your work, because I naturally will want to take it on, right? So I have to remind, this is for me. I go, no, that's yours. That's yours. And what I find is when I just do that, the person usually comes back to me and they take more of responsibility for the relationship. So instead of the relationship being maybe 80-20, it ends up being more 50-50 or more 60-40, right? Because I'm literally energetically going, no, that's your work. So that two-world split is not just for us so that we can rise quicker. It's also for them. It's too much. They've already rejected us this whole way through. We just didn't see it. Right? They rejected us because they were indoctrinated to go for idol worship. We were too much for them. We were pulling them out. So now all that's happening with the face coverings and everything else is now we're actually seeing it. And if we're really honest, if we're really, really, really honest, these people that are in that other world, right? They're making decisions that we wouldn't make. Did we really resonate with them? If we're really honest, right? And the ones that rejected us, right, say family or people from our past, did we really resonate with them?
Yeah. I wonder too, you know, here in America, there's the government has, you know, sent money to keep people afloat. Once or maybe twice, or getting ready to send out the second one or whatever. And I wonder a little bit about this too, this idea of wanting, I was thinking about some of what you're saying about leadership, you know, and standing on your own 2 feet, and, you know, governance. Well, humans still sort of need governance, and hopefully you're right. We're getting to a place where we don't want that anymore. I mean, you know, it's funny. I'm going to take a really weird tangent here and tell a story. This reminds me somehow of years and years ago, back in the 1980s, when my husband and I are driving across the country and driving, you know, and we were too broke to get a hotel room. We just drive through the night and swap turns and everything and keep going and keep going. And needing to stop and get some food along the way, and there wasn't many choices, especially not in our budget, and we'd pull up to some stupid fast food joint or whatever, and my husband would get his burger and soda or whatever, and I would sit in that passenger seat and I would say, if only I could get a salad and some water, you know, if only I could just get some water and a salad. And he would uproariously laugh at me. These, you know, burger joints, salad, water, are you kidding? And of course, but, you know, it seems like, and this is a small example, but it seems like, and I don't mean to say that I'm so smart. What I'm saying is my needs often don't seem to fit the current circumstances of what's going on. And yet I'm thinking in myself, this is just, it seems like there would be more people who would want a salad and a water, and, you know, it's never going to happen. Oh, I can dream. A girl can dream, can't she? And I mean, look where we are now in most places, even when you're forced to make, you know, decisions like this, there's typically some veggies and some water somewhere now. It used to be you couldn't even get water. You couldn't get water. You had to get some sort of soda or whatever. And so what am I getting at here? It's this idea of the community that I ended up creating. You know, first we started out with Dolores Cannon. We were only supporting Dolores Cannon trained practitioners. After she passed, I really had this idea of, you know, I could just quit and ride horses, and I don't need to do this anymore. And there was a part of me that just sounded wonderful, you know. And every time I would check in, it was like, nope, oh no, you've still got so much more to do. Oh no. And I'm like, but the whole structure has basically booted this and doesn't want to support the same. Oh no, you're going to need to keep going. So we did that for a while, and then right about the time you were making these years, you know, and it was about 2016 when, you know, one of these other, and I'm like, you know what? Let's just open it up, because what I'm interested in is not a top-down information leader, student leader thing exchange. What I'm interested in is horizontal. I'm interested in a horizontal learning environment with other people who do this, where I'm not better than you, you're not better than me, and we can come together in this very equal place and sort of say, and it's a practitioner, so it's not for the public, but it's for service to others, practitioners. They can share, of course, never with anyone's personal details or anything, but client situations. How would you help this person? Here's this other thing that happened. What would you do there? And it's across modalities. It's completely across modalities, which is, as far as I know, there's still nothing like it out there, where a life coach can interface with a transpersonal hypnotherapist versus a quantum healer versus somebody who does laughter yoga or whatever, and they can all talk about things in this way, this horizontal learning way. I think we're moving towards that. I think we're moving towards this idea of not needing a mommy daddy system to take care of us, but that system, which you call the narcissistic kind of global controllers, they're really playing into this, and they nurture and they encourage our weakness, our dependence. And when we get tired, they want to be the ones that seem to be throwing out the lifeline so that they can keep us under their thumb. And I don't think a lot of people are seeing that.
No, because they're not seeing it in their own life. So the ones that have woken up from narcissistic abuse in their own life, you can see it really clearly, right? Because it's, and that's part of it. For the last 20 years, a lot of us have had to have it in our personal life in order to remain leading during this time, because we can see it for what it is. But, so many people haven't woken up to it within their own life. So for them, it's actually comforting. It's actually comforting. And, for them to give their power away like that, for them to say, well, I'm excited to, get my life back. Well, where did your life go? Why did you give it away? Like, okay, we've had to be in lockdown, but I haven't given it away. What does that even mean? I've still lived, I've still helped people, I'm still doing what I'm doing. So yeah, I feel like if you haven't woken up to it in your own life, it's going to be, well, it'll be hard for you to kind of know what it is. And if it's hard to know what it is, it's often then hard to step out of it, right? Because it's not lit up for you, it's still all hazy. But so then you are choosing to learn through the physical. And I will say that during these 20 years, when I was healing through narcissistic abuse, there were many, many people that I was like the gift they never opened, because I was explaining it to them. When you have your enablers and you're like trying to shake the enablers going, wake up, can't you see what they're doing to you? And then instead they just rejected me and pushed me away. So, okay, you chose not to learn through me trying to help you or through somebody else trying to help you. You had the same experiences as me, but you chose not to. So now here you are. And so here we are, quite literally, Now it's just so clear to see where people are at with their sovereignty, with their power, with all of it. You can literally see it on their faces.
Yeah, you really can. It's been so great to talk to you. I'm wondering, can we end kind of on this one issue too? Because this one is still out there. We're all having to navigate it. And that's this concept of, well, sure, you have your own power. You can do what you want, but if you don't do what they say or what we want, then it's not safe for the next person. And you have to do these other things. You have to do them because if you don't, then you are blowing smoke up everyone's butt about you being a light worker and caring about people. If you don't do X, Y, Z, you don't care about us. How do you respond to that concept out there?
You are running the self-sacrifice program, and I am not participating in that. That program of, I must sacrifice myself for your safety, right? Or they're coming at you saying, because of you, I'm this. That is self-sacrifice. We've been taught to self-sacrifice, I think maybe for the last 100 years, right? Possibly more than that. Who have we been taught by? The global narcs, right? Call them whatever you will. And they've been in charge of our education system. When I'm helping people heal from cancer, from anywhere where their body is turning in on itself and hurting itself, they're running a self-sacrifice program. I will basically help you and hurt me. Yeah. Okay, how does that work exactly? If you have half the planet helping and half the planet receiving, but the half that are helping are hurting themselves in order to help the half that don't want to do the work themselves, they don't want to be responsible, that doesn't work. What are we doing then? What are we doing then? We're kind of still the parent. I don't think so. I'm not talking about people who are in crisis. I'm not talking about people who can't look after themselves. I'm not talking about that. But very much so, we can no longer be giving and taking from ourselves at the same time. We can no longer be sacrificing, like we can no longer be in service and sacrificing ourselves to do that, right? Because service isn't sacrifice. It just isn't. To me, that's a distorted love. And when you look at narcissists, how do narcissists retain power? Well, my God, we could just do a massive, great big scroll, right? But how do they gain power? One of them, divide and rule. They're going to get you fighting within each other. So when somebody, I mean, I've never had that, right? But if somebody says something to me like that, I simply say, that's self-sacrifice, and that's not going to help anybody. That's a self-sacrifice program. And then I just go, that's okay. I just don't believe in what you believe in. I don't have to explain myself to you. I don't owe you anything. Because if you're already coming at me with that, you're not at the level of consciousness to be able to hear where I'm at. And that's your choice. But I'm not going to continue trying to help you or change your mind, because that's going to deplete me. I'm interested in the ones that want to learn. I'm interested in the ones that can see it. So another part of that, and I put a video out on Facebook about a week or so ago, which is like, I don't give a fuck what you think of me. If we are going to worry about what people might think of us, maybe they're going to call us the narcissists, right? Because we're the ones not wearing, the thing on our face. You have to do shadow work. You have to be embodied. You have to own your narcissistic part in you, which is actually, when you own your inner narcissist, it stops turning in and hurting you, and it turns out and it protects you towards people that actually want to hurt you, because you'll have boundaries. You'll be like, I don't think so, stop. So it's important to go, well, each person is a part of me. You are saying to me that I'm the problem. If I'm hooked in and I'm going to believe that, then that's my work. That's my job. If I'm responding, if I'm being triggered, that's my work to do, to go and clear and heal that. So the next time I walk out onto the street and you say that to me, or you insinuate it, right? I've definitely had that. And people have looked at me and gone, they've done all of that, right? They're just, why would they give their power away to me? I don't know. But I genuinely don't care what you think about me. I really don't, because that's your work. That's your judgment. That's your work. That's not my work. I'm good. And we know that I'm good because I've already made the choice to walk out with nothing on my face. So I'm good. I've already made that decision. I don't need your validation or your invalidation. So it's genuinely owning my part, and that's all I can do. So it's important for us, I feel very much during this year, the more we can own what bothers us in the outside world, the less internal war there is internally. And when there's no internal war, then we are not going to have any external war show up, because it no longer needs to show up. The outside no longer needs to show up for us to heal, because we've already done it. So anywhere that you're frightened, anywhere that you are nervous, stressed, worried, carrying, whatever it is, go fall in love with that part of you. So then the outside world, when it shows it to you, has no power over you anymore. And then you just stand fully in your sovereignty and your power. And that, to me, is real freedom, real freedom. And that is not dependent on what the government say or do. That is not dependent on anybody else's judgment, because you've already got it. So yeah.
Freedom. You know what, Marina J? This is my favorite word. It may be my favorite word really of my whole life, but it is most certainly my favorite word for the last year or so. So we're going to end it there. But of course, we need you to tell people how they can find you and what you're up to these days. Any new projects or classes or anything like that, please let us know.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you can find me at marinaj.net. I have my #1 best-selling book called Turn Yourself On, which is a play on words, which is to turn on your ability to heal, your power on, your light on. It's shadow work. My podcast is also called Turn Yourself On. I just like it so much. And I have, you can download the free emotional masterclass, the emotional health masterclass, that I literally talk about everything we talked about today. So it's actually about how to deal with your emotions. I've met a lot of healers that have bypassed that bit, they've jumped, and that's okay, right? We've all specialized in certain areas, and this is why I feel like what you were talking about before, that flat structure, is so important, because we were taught at school to be good at everything. Now we're understanding, I'm really good at shadow work, I'm really good at the emotional stuff. I'm really bad at doing my taxes. I don't skip it, right? But I can't count. Yeah. I used to cry every year. I used to literally cry. And then I used to start to wear a ball gown to do it, to try and offset the pain. That actually really fucking helped. It was brilliant. I'd have tea and I'd have like chocolate and wear a ball gown. But I feel like we're all, and then, you know, we'll have healers that are so incredible at going totally up cosmic, but there's that. So there's no shame in your game. It's kind of like, all right, this year, what do I need? We've cared for so many people for so long. Where are the gaps for me? For me personally right now, it's physical. My physical body is my portal to ascension, as we all are, but I'm really now, I'm suddenly doing a bit more makeup. I've never done that before because I've never had patience to be with myself before because of old trauma. So we're all kind of healing the different parts. So yeah, so they can download that. I've got a higher self meditation. Really just come find me. I'll be doing another shadow intensive soon, which is where we do shadow work, and we use that to kind of just become the fire that we're born to be, right? So yeah.
I'm so happy to have spent this time with you and gotten to know you a little bit better. I would love to have tea with you in real life someday. But if not, let's do something at some point again. I've enjoyed this exchange so much, Marina J. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. And I just think for everybody to have you organizing them in this beautiful, you know, Quantum Realms 2021 and everything you do, I just think we're really lucky to have you. And again, like we haven't had a conversation yet, but I just feel like we're going to be in each other's lives now. So I really just thank you so much for having me, and thank you for everything that you do and everything that you are, because honestly, I see you and I just think you're exactly what this world needs. So thank you. Yeah.
I feel the same. Thank you so much. All right, everyone. Stay tuned for another episode of Quantum Realms coming up soon. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.